Hey everybody, it's me, Dead. So, I'm just going to read Harry Potter because it's almost your bedtime and I want to read it. So I'm going to read it to you and get it uploaded before I go to dinner so that you can watch it before you go to bed. Right? All right. So, where did we leave off last time? Let's see. Let's see here. We're gonna start. They had just he had just gotten the new broom, the oh my goodness, the firebolt. Remember? All right, so he had just gotten the firebolt. Hermione came in and said, "Who would send it to you?" And I tell you who it was. This is weird. You should probably think about this a little more. And then Ron got mad, and then Crookshanks attacked Scabbers, and Scabbers was looking really sick. So, let's start. The Christmas spirit was definitely thin on the ground in the Gryffindor common room that morning. Hermione had shut Crookshanks in her dormitory, but was furious with Ron for trying to kick him. Ron was still fuming about Crookshanks' fresh attempt to eat Scabbers. Harry gave up trying to make them talk to each other and devoted himself to examining the firebolt, which he had brought down to the common room with him. For some reason, this seemed to annoy Hermione as well. She didn't say anything, but she kept looking darkly at the broom as though it too had been criticizing her cat. At lunchtime, they went down to the Great Hall to find that the house tables had been moved against the walls again, and that a single table, set for 12, stood in the middle of the room. Professors Dumbledore, McGonagall, Snape, Sprout, and Flitwick were there, along with Filch, the caretaker, who had taken off his usual brown coat and was wearing a very old and rather moldy-looking tailcoat. There were only 3 other students, 2 extremely nervous-looking first-years and a sullen-faced Slytherin fifth-year. "Merry Christmas," said Dumbledore as Ron, Harry, and Hermione approached the table. "As there are so few of us, it seems foolish to use the house tables. Sit down. Sit down." Harry, Ron, and Hermione sat down side by side at the end of the table. "Crackers," said Dumbledore enthusiastically, offering the end of a large silver noisemaker to Snape, who took it reluctantly and tugged. With a bang, like a gunshot, the cracker flew apart to reveal a large pointed witch's hat topped with stuffed vulture. Ooh, delicious. Harry, remembering the Bogart, caught Ron's eye and they both grinned. Snape's mouth thinned and he pushed the hat toward Dumbledore, who swapped it for his wizard's hat at once. "Dig in," he advised the table, beaming around. As Harry was helping himself to roast potatoes, the doors of the great hall opened again. It was Professor Trelawney, gliding toward them as though on wheels. She had put on a green sequined dress in honor of the occasion, making her look more than ever like a glittering, oversized dragonfly. "Sybil, this is a pleasant surprise," said Dumbledore, standing up. "I have been crystal-gazing, Headmaster," said Professor Trelawney in her mistiest, most far-away voice, "and to my astonishment, I saw myself abandoning my solitary luncheon and coming to join you. Who am I to refuse the promptings of fate? I at once hastened from my tower, and I do beg you to forgive my lateness." Hastened means hurried, like you hurried down. She hurried downstairs. Certainly," said Dumbledore, his eyes twinkling. Twinkling means they light up, like he was excited to see her. "Let me draw you up a chair." And he did indeed draw a chair in mid-air with his wand, which revolved for a few seconds before falling with a thud between Professor Snape and McGonagall. Professor Trelawney, however, did not sit down. Her enormous eyes had been roving around the table, and she suddenly uttered a kind of soft scream. "I dare not, Headmaster. If I join the table, we shall be 13. Nothing could be more unlucky. Never forget that when 13 dine together, the first to rise will be the first to die. We'll risk it, Sybil, said Professor McGonagall impatiently. Do sit down. The turkey's getting stone cold. Professor Trelawney hesitated, then lowered herself into the empty chair, eyes shut and mouth clenched tight, as though expecting a thunderbolt to hit the table. Professor McGonagall poked a large spoon into the nearest tureen. Tripe, Sybil? Professor Trelawney ignored her. Eyes opened again, she looked around once more and said, But where is dear Professor Lupin? I'm afraid the poor fellow is ill again, said Dumbledore, indicating that everyone should start serving themselves. Most unfortunate that it should happen on Christmas Day. But surely you already knew that, Sybil, said Professor McGonagall, her eyebrows raised. Professor Trelawney gave Professor McGonagall a very cold look. Certainly I knew, Minerva, she said quietly, but one does not parade the fact that one is all-knowing. I frequently act as though I am not possessed of the inner eye, so as not to make others nervous. The inner eye is like that she can see the future and know what's going on. That explains a great deal, said Professor McGonagall tartly. Professor Trelawney's voice suddenly became a good deal less misty. If you must know, Minerva, I have seen that poor Professor Lupin will not be with us for very long. He seems aware himself that his time is short. He positively fled when I offered to crystal gaze for him. Imagine that, said Professor McGonagall dryly. I doubt, said Dumbledore in a cheerful but slightly raised voice, which put an end to Professor McGonagall and Professor Trelawney's conversation, that Professor Lupin is in any immediate danger. Severus, you've made that potion for him again. Yes, Headmaster, said Snape. Good, said Dumbledore. Then he should be up and about in no time. Derek, have you had any of those chipolatas? They're excellent. And before you ask, I don't know what a chipolata is. Must be some sort of magical food. The first-year boy went furiously red on being addressed directly by Dumbledore, and took the platter of sausages, apparently they're sausages, with trembling hands. Professor Trelawney behaved almost normally until the very end of Christmas dinner 2 hours later. Full to bursting with Christmas dinner and still wearing their party hats, Harry and Ron got up first from the table, and she shrieked loudly, My dears! Which of you left his seat first? Which? Don't know, said Ron, looking uneasily at Harry. I doubt it will make much difference, said Professor McGonagall coldly, unless a mad axeman is waiting outside the doors to slaughter the first into the entrance hall. Even Ron laughed. Professor Trelawney looked highly affronted. Affronted, I think, means offended. Coming? Harry said to Hermione. No, Hermione muttered. I want a quick word with Professor McGonagall. Probably trying to see if she can take any more classes, yawned Ron as they made their way into the entrance hall, which was completely devoid of mad axemen. When they reached the portrait hole, they found Sir Cadogan enjoying a Christmas party with a couple of monks, several previous headmasters of Hogwarts, and his fat pony. He pushed up his visor and toasted them with a flagon of mead. I think that means like a big cup. Merry Christmas. Password? Scurvy cur, said Ron. And the same to you, sir, roared Sir Cadogan as the painting swung forward to admit them. Harry went straight up to the dormitory, collected the firebolt and the broomstick servicing kit Hermione had given him for his birthday, brought them downstairs, and tried to find something to do with the firebolt. However, there were no bent twigs to clip, and the handle was so shiny already it seemed pointless to polish it. He and Ron simply sat admiring it from every angle until the portrait hole opened and Hermione came in, accompanied by Professor McGonagall. Though Professor McGonagall was head of Gryffindor House, Harry had seen her in the common room only once before, and that had been to make a very grave announcement. He and Ron stared at her, both holding the firebolt. Hermione walked around them, sat down, picked up the nearest book, and hid her face behind it. So that's it, is it? Said Professor McGonagall beadily. walking over to the fireside and staring at the firebolt. "Miss Granger has just informed me that you have been sent a broomstick, Potter." Harry and Ron looked around at Hermione. They could see her forehead reddening over the top of her book, which was upside down. "May I?" said Professor McGonagall. But she didn't wait for an answer before pulling the firebolt out of their hands. She examined it carefully, from handle to twig ends. And there was no note at all, Potter? No card? No message of any kind?" "No," said Harry blankly. "I see," said Professor McGonagall. "Well, I'm afraid I will have to take this, Potter." "What?" said Harry, scrambling to his feet. "Why?" "It will need to be checked for jinxes," said Professor McGonagall. "Of course, I'm no expert, but I dare say Madam Hooch and Professor Flitwick will strip it down." "Strip it down?" repeated Ron, as though Professor McGonagall was mad. "It shouldn't take more than a few weeks," said Professor McGonagall. "You will have it back if we are sure it is jinx-free." "There's nothing wrong with it," said Harry, his voice shaking slightly. "Honestly, Professor." "You can't know that, Potter," said Professor McGonagall quite kindly. "Not until you've flown it. At any rate, and I'm afraid that it is out of the question until we are certain that it has not been tampered with. I shall keep you informed." Professor McGonagall turned on her heel and carried the firebolt out of the portrait hole, which closed behind her. Harry stood staring after her, the tin of high finished polish still clutched in his hand. Ron, however, rounded on Hermione. "What did you do running to McGonagall for? What did you go running to McGonagall for?" Hermione threw her book aside. She was still pink in the face, but stood up and faced Ron defiantly. "Because I thought, and Professor McGonagall agrees with me, that the broom was probably sent to Harry by Sirius Black." End of the chapter. Next, end of chapter 11. So, I wanted to tell you, I miss you guys a ton. I had a classroom setting today where I was basically like Olivia and Mia, and I sat in a classroom all day, and we had people come in and they taught us a bunch of stuff, and I got a brand new computer, and it was really fun, and I learned a lot. So I'm really excited about everything that's going on, but I really miss your mom, and I miss the three of you a ton. I love you all very much, and I miss you. So, a couple of people from the class are going to the basketball game tonight, and they got tickets for $7 a piece, which is crazy, I know. So I was trying to decide if I should go or not, but I don't think I'm gonna go. So that's it, basically. Yeah. Now I'm gonna go grab something to eat. I want you three to go to bed because I love you, and I want you to sleep tight. Don't let the bed bugs bite at all, and don't give your mom a hard time. All right? I'll talk to you later. Love you.